early spring here in the Catskill Mountains, and you know what that means. Warmer days, cooler nights, and great maple trees like this, the sap is starting to run. And all across Delaware County are collected in buckets just like this, or now with tubes. About a year ago, we did a video profile of one of our members at the Chamber, Maplewood Farm and Orchard. Let's take a look at that.
Welcome to Maplewood Farm and Orchard in Bovina.
Hi, it's Ray Pucci with the Delaware County Chamber of Commerce, and we're pleased to present to you a video profile of one of our members, Maplewood Farm and Orchard here on Miller Avenue in the town of Bovina. Come on, let's go inside and take a look.
All products are made with New York State grown maple syrup.
Welcome to our sugar house. That's the releaser where we draw a vacuum on to the lines on the hill. It's running in approximately now about 150 gallons an hour. This is where the sap comes into the sugar house. And it enters to this, the reverse osmosis machine. Basically, the reverse osmosis machine just reduces the volume of water needed to boil. For example, if sap comes in at 2%, it will come out, at least the way I operate it, somewhere between 6 and 8% sugar, drastically reducing the boiling time. This is our evaporator. As you know, first it comes off the hill into the tank outside, through the RO, ends up in those chambers up above. Those two tanks, especially one, gravity feed to the evaporator in the back to a float box where the sap comes in. The process of making syrup is a continuous process. It always runs in, it always gets evaporated, and becomes more condensed as it travels through the evaporator. Its final processes, when it gets to this point, is hopefully syrup. We watch the thermometer, we also check with the hydrometer. When we have the right combination, right temperature, we draw off here in this chamber.
This is our grading kit. It contains golden, which has a delicate flavor, amber color, which has a rich taste, and dark, which has a robust taste. The fourth one is very dark and has a very intense taste.
My favorite, of course, is medium amber for a couple reasons. One, I seem to make the most of it. Two, it still has a really nice maple flavor before it has changed and gotten a little stronger.
So when did you start tapping this year?
Well, we started tapping, I think, about the end of January.
That early?
Finished February 9th.
Okay.
Interesting, I've made syrup for 42 years.
Right.
For 30 or plus years, we always started tapping on President's Week.
Okay.
As our climate's changing, we're getting a little sooner and sooner and sooner.
Oh.
It's making quite an impact.
Okay. And how many gallons of sap do you expect to see this year?
I don't exactly know how many gallons of sap.
But how many gallons of finished product do you think you'll see
hoping
this
to
year?
make 500 gallons of syrup.
That's great. That's great. And all varieties, or?
Yes, traditionally it's a little lighter in the beginning. As the season goes on, it gets a little darker.
Okay. And how's it going so far? I mean, here we are, the very beginning of March.
Right. I've boiled 3 times in February. We've made 50 gallons, good syrup. So
is that typical?
Pretty typical. You know,
Okay.
Last year, I don't think we ever boiled until March 12th. The year before that, I started boiling in January. All depends what the year and Mother Nature's giving you.
Sure. And to really get that good sap flow, everyone's always said you need warm days and cool nights.
The optimum sap flow would be, temperature-wise, I'd love to see it 28 degrees every night and about 49 every day with sunshine.
I like that too.
And no south wind.
And why no south wind?
For some reason, when you get a south wind, which we have today,
we do,
the flow usually isn't as much. I think a lot has to do with barometric pressure, where the temperature's coming from, those type of things. But there's a lot I don't know about.
Okay. And you're running a lot of lines
Yes.
so everything, it's not like, it's not the spile and the buckets.
No, everything's on tubing. Certainly you don't have to gather, but to get ready to make syrup, you got to put a lot of effort in.
Sure.
In the old days, I've put up plenty of buckets.
I bet you have.
But today we don't have any. I think a lot of that has to do with where we tap, not so much on whether we want to use buckets or tubing. I tap on a mountainside.
Okay.
The big old sugar bushes, the trees along the side of the road are gone. And remember, my grandfather used to have 5,000 buckets just up and down the road on each side. Those trees no longer exist. So I actually created a sugar bush out of an old piece of woods. Thinned it, worked it, did all that over the years.
So how old do you think most of those trees are right now?
My trees, I guess 60, 70.
Okay.
Something
Not all
like
that old.
Not old.
I mean, for a tree, 60, 70 is not old.
No.
In addition to maple syrup, there are lots of other products that you can find here at Maplewood Farm. Karen, tell us about some of these. You're holding that...
The granulated sugar.
The maple granulated sugar. And I'm holding a peppered maple mustard. Why don't you tell me a little bit about this one?
Well, it's quite popular. A lot of people like it. I offer samples at the festivals.
Okay.
And if I can get somebody to taste it, they usually buy it because it's quite good. It's not real spicy, but it gives a little zip and they like it.
Excellent. So what else do we have? We have a variety of some different products here behind us.
Buttermilk pancake mix, an oatmeal pancake mix. This one here is a maple apple pumpkin spread using pumpkin and apples and some spices.
Oh my goodness. And we have, of course, we have here's that milk chocolate maple popcorn that you had talked about, the
Right.
Maple Crunch.
I also sell it plain, just plain popcorn. I also have, I don't have any nuts here, but I also do a granola, an apple cranberry almond granola.
And of course, the good old maple cream. That's part of it too. And you do some painting, I see.
Yes, I do. I painted that sap bucket. I
Beautiful.
do other paintings as well. That's the only one I have right here.
Maplewood Farm and Orchard maple syrup and products are available for sale at Delaware Bulldozing in Bloomville, Good Cheap Food in Delhi, and Catskill Regional Harvest in Andes. Pruning in the on-site apple orchard is currently underway.
So we're standing in the middle of the orchard, or what we expect to be the orchard for the U-Pick this coming fall. Tell me a little bit about, it looks like you just recently pruned, which is the time of year to do that stuff. What are some of the varieties that we have here?
Well, that one there's an Ida Red. We also have Macoun, Liberty, there's some Macintosh, Honeycrisp, Freedom, quite a few.
All really good eating apples.
Yes.
And of course, as you know, I'm an excavating contractor as well. As you can see, all of our job sites aren't necessarily clean. Sometimes it gets a little muddy. But when I'm not making maple syrup, and most of the rest of the time, this is what I'm up to. So if you need a good excavator, let me know. We hope you enjoyed your brief tour of Maplewood Farm and Orchard, located on Miller Avenue in the town of Lavina. And remember, if you're driving by on a sunny day and the weather's about 45 to 50, and you see steam coming out, please stop on in.
And remember, we're stronger together.
New York State Senator Mike Martucci, representing the state's 42nd Senate District, recently accompanied the chamber in a visit to various community hubs in Delaware County, like UHS Delaware Valley Hospital in Walton, where he heard from hospital staff and administrators on issues ranging from proposed Medicaid reimbursement cuts, nursing staff ratios, laboratory staff supervision mandates, and new Medicare telehealth laws. Senator Martucci also toured Walton Central School and heard from Superintendent Dr. Michael McDonald about budget projections for the upcoming school year, as well as the planning process for COVID-related mandates and concerns about state education aid.
Thanks for joining us today on DelCo 360. Joining me now is State Senator Mike Martucci. Mike is one of our state senators representing the 42nd Senate District in New York State. Senator, welcome to Delaware County. We're here in, right now we are at Walton Central School, you spent some time this afternoon visiting Walton, the Delaware Valley Hospital, now at the Walton Central School. Certainly I know you're familiar with Walton, but give us some first impressions.
Well, I had a great day today. I got to meet the entire hospital administration and so many of the great healthcare workers that have been working on the front lines of the pandemic every single day. I mean, these are folks who have been fighting this pandemic, like I said, on the front lines, keeping our communities safe and healthy. So that was an outstanding visit. And then to come here and see Dr. McDonald and meet so many of the great people here at Walton Central School District has been wonderful.
Now, you've been in the state Senate about 70 some days now. What's happening in Albany? Busy time.
It is an incredibly busy time in Albany. So, certainly you take office, and one of the very first tasks that you work on, which is really one of the biggest tasks you work on the entire year, is the state budget. And the state of New York has about $190 billion state budget. And right now we're in the midst of crafting that state budget. And this really is going to be one of the most important state budgets we ever craft, because it's the budget that's going to walk us out of the really tough economic times that we have right now, we face because of COVID.
Now, one of the concerns that the chamber has, that we've raised with you, that a lot of our members have, and a lot of our residents, frankly, have, is the availability of vaccine. We know that's improving, and you have been very vocal in support of making sure that rural communities like Delaware County are treated equitably in relationship to that vaccine. Let's talk a little bit about that. Where are we right now, do you think, with the vaccine?
So, Ray, first, certainly I received a letter from you and many, many calls and outreach from your chamber members. I heard you loud and clear, and your claims are absolutely valid and became a laser focus in my first 70 days at work in terms of advocating for what was undoubtedly a vaccine desert here in Delaware County. So over the past several weeks, we've seen steadily ramp up the distribution of vaccines through the healthcare network, the Department of Public Health, and even at some pharmacies. And as we move forward, our goal is going to be to continue to increase that distribution. Johnson & Johnson was just recently approved. So now there are 3, Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson approved vaccines. And again, my focus is going to be to make sure that we get those vaccines here locally in Delaware County, so that all those professionals, like the great people we met this morning at Delaware Valley Hospital and others, can get the shots right in the arms where they belong.
And having that a state center at SUNY Oneonta is certainly going to be a help. And more vaccine, like you said, having it available through pharmacies, building some of that consumer confidence, the public confidence, to feel comfortable walking outside their doors, walking into our stores, and supporting our local businesses. Those are all going to be important issues as we're looking at this economic recovery.
Well, the consumer confidence you're pointing to is exactly where we need to be focused. Even if someone were to wave a magic wand and reopen restaurants at 100% and allow large venues to open, people need to feel confident going to those places. And really the pathway to getting that done is widespread vaccine distribution for those folks that are looking to take the vaccine. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. That vaccine distribution is at the dead center of our economic recovery, and it's where my focus is right now.
Excellent. Your staff has been extremely accessible. You had your first mobile office in Delhi a few days ago, and that was great success. Several people came. What are some of those plans? We're kind of at the edge of your district. What are some of those plans to make sure that folks have access to you and to your staff so that their voices can be heard?
Well, there's a couple ways. First, I would encourage anyone who has any concern to call my office. You can reach us at 845-344-3311. Certainly, you can always Google me and find me online and send me an email. But as we move through the spring and throughout the summer and into next year, we will continue to have a presence with mobile office hours. Our goal is to get around to all the towns in the district, including key places here in Delaware County, Walton and Delhi, and other towns as well. We're also going to be reopening a district office right in Liberty, which isn't too far from here. So our goal will be to have a physical district office in Middletown, one in Liberty, and then cover the rest of the territory with mobile office hours, certainly with us always being available online or on the telephone.
And we know that you have access to buses.
We do have access to buses. So as I'm
Let's
sure.
talk. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so as I'm sure many chamber members remember, during the campaign, we were found traveling about the entire district in our campaign bus, and we still have that bus, and we will still be using it. So
Great.
now certainly it'll be a tool that we use to get on the ground in every one of our communities across this very rural district.
Mike, you and I have gotten to know each other fairly well over the last few months, certainly from the campaign, but since you've been in office the last 70 some days. For those who don't know about you, why don't you give us all a little introduction to who Mike Martucci is?
Well, thanks, Ray. And I think I was really happy to join the chamber a little while ago, having the opportunity to introduce myself. And the chamber always does such a great job, always featuring candidates during races. And I had the opportunity to engage in a debate during the time that I was running for state senate. But look, at heart, I'm a small business person. I've never run for public office before, ever in my life. I had a small business of my own. When I was 22, I bought one school bus and began driving it on a public transportation contract in Orange County. And just as soon as I had saved up enough money to buy a second bus, I did that. And my grandmother, who was retired at the time, came and was my very first employee. And I always say she really wasn't an employee, she was a volunteer.
Right.
So I didn't pay her anything. But in the 10 years to follow, I was so blessed to have the opportunity, by surrounding myself with the best team anyone could ask for, to grow the company from that first school bus to a company of just shy of 600 employees. So I dealt with so many of the things that your chamber members deal with on a daily basis. I've been in your shoes. I know just how difficult it is to run a successful business here. So one of my big focuses in the state senate is finding ways to help our small businesses be more successful.
And one of the committees that you're engaged in is the Commerce and Economic Development. So you're in a key position to help make some of that happen. What are some of those priorities that you have in Albany during your this first term?
Well, so during this first term, I think that certainly dead in the center of our sights, besides many of the public health issues that we talked about, is small business recovery. So there are several, from my perspective, very practical things that this state should be doing to help its small businesses at this really critical time. Because once COVID's over, my great concern is that we won't recognize a Main Street in Walton or Delhi or any of the communities that we call home.
Great point.
So I think that taking a serious look at the small business tax structure, our small businesses are tremendously overburdened by a tax structure that we need to re-examine top to bottom in Albany to make it easier to do business here. You've talked about things like workers' compensation rates, which are tremendous in the state of New York and make it so difficult for our businesses to be successful. And really, one of my very first victories in Albany, something that we had talked about during the campaign, was the importance of holding our small businesses harmless on their unemployment insurance experience ratings.
Yes.
So I was so proud to, just within my first 2 weeks in Albany, vote on a bill that has since become the law here in New York that holds harmless our small businesses from COVID-related unemployment claims.
That is saving small businesses around Delaware County thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and probably millions of dollars all across New York State. So Thank you for that. That was a key bit of legislation.
Well, and certainly, again, what I would say to all the business owners is, the state of New York had asked business owners to make sacrifices for the good of public health. We asked our business owners to close for a period of time.
Yeah.
We asked our restaurants to, up until right now, work under limited hours and limited capacities, all in the interest of public health. The least we can do right now is provide support to those business owners so that they can be successful.
Mike, how can folks get in contact with you? You mentioned a phone number, but how can people get in contact with you?
So again, a couple of different ways. Certainly always reach us by phone, 845-344-3311. I'm also available by email, Martucci, MARTUCCI, at nysenate.gov.
Excellent. Mike Martucci is our state senator from the 42nd Senate District here in New York, representing towns like Walton, Delhi, Colchester, a few others as well. Thanks for joining us today on DelCo 360.
Thanks for having me as always.
Good to see you. Joined today by Sridhar Samudrala, who has just been elected mayor here in Delhi. Of course, all of us know him as Sam. So, Sam, thanks for joining me today, and congratulations on your election as Delhi Village Mayor.
Well, thank you so much. First and foremost, it's an honor and privilege to serve as mayor, and I think I hope to provide the residents of Delhi, the village residents of Delhi, with all of the experience that I have working in the field of politics, so forth. In my previous life, I was the board member for the village of Delhi for about 2 terms, which I said that I would do, and I upheld that. And during that term, we were able to work with the senators and congressmen to secure some funding for us, and that's something that I hope to provide in the future, and to get additional funding primarily from Washington, D.C. and the state government to give to our underserved population.
Well, let's talk about that, because Congress recently passed some legislation. The president signed it within the last couple weeks, and it looks like the different municipalities across New York State are going to receive boatloads of monies. So what are some of the priorities that you have as mayor? But also let's focus on some of those dollars that are going to be flowing into the village. What do you see as some of those priorities for that funding?
Well, the funding is primarily to the municipalities that are underserved, and Delhi is an underserved area.
Yeah.
First and foremost, again, our tax base is very low. The county has 75% of the tax area here, and
well,
they don't provide any taxes to us.
When we're talking about county government, state government, of course, the college is part of that
Correct.
State government. So you're right, 75% or more, 78% or something is tax exempt here in the village. Exempt.
And so we need to address that, and as the village residents, we need to sustain our current way of life. And we need to bring those funds into here for the industries. We need to provide our industries that we have to get them to gear up for the next phase of COVID. They need to provide, first of all, our sewer plant. That is right now one of our priorities. We're providing the village of Delhi with clean water and taking their sewer. That's a great benefit. I believe that we should provide our industries also with the same level of effort, and that we do need to get some funding for to upgrade our plant. Also, one of the other priorities is to work with the town of Delhi. It's a wonderful entity, and they have a tremendous amount of opportunities that we can work on. So that's something I definitely want to work on, working and update our comprehensive plan. That's a great opportunity. Our joint efforts for the flood mitigation, our shared approach, and address the bridge at Woolerton Street. That's something that we need to address it. And so the town pool, that's a great entity that we have here. Let's try to get the businesses around the town pool. It's in the village of Delhi, but the town operates it. It's their pool, but all of the residents and the surrounding areas use it. So let's get some, quote, I'm just making this up here, like ice cream out there. When I'm out there at the pool, I want to have a little ice cream, right? Don't the kids want some? So these are just some of the minor things, but I think for the village residents, I hope to get out there and secure some additional funding from the state and central government to provide opportunities for the new residents that are moving in from the city. They're coming in here, and we need to also address that. I think we have a flood of people, no pun intended, coming in from downstate, and they want services in the village, and we just need to address those items.
And you mentioned about working with our local industries, Saputo, Domo, and groups
Clark.
like that, and Clark, all very important. You know, and I guess I need to put in that plug. Of course, let's not forget our Main Street businesses and how we support them as well.
That's a great opportunity that we have here, working with the town and the village together. I think collaboration, we already do that, but I think we can further address it. Just collaboration, collective approaches, and how to collectively just do better things.
Excellent.
Just communication. We just need to communicate with each other and just go forward.
We are all neighbors, right?
We are neighbors. Let's
So it's easy just to it's the Catskill way. It's we work together we identify problems, we figure out those solutions,
and collectively and I have this motto: let's just make it happen. Let's just not address all the minor things. What were we talking about before? We mentioned something. Don't worry about the little things in life, and everything in life is little. Right?
We just get it done.
Let's
Terrific. Sam, thanks for joining me today. Welcome back to village government, I guess I should say. And we here at the Chamber, we certainly wish you great success as mayor in Delhi, and we look forward to a partnership on the public and the private side to make something happen for all of us here in the Delhi area and throughout Delaware County. So thanks again for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
For joining us for today's edition of DelCo 360 Local Matters. See you next time.